Thank you, and welcome to the Agency Balance Podcast, where we talk about marketing, tech, real-life self-improvements, and things that make you happy to find your balance. Agency Balance is sponsored by Smarticore, a marketing technology agency that creates solutions that align B2B marketing, sales, and service to drive results throughout the entire customer journey. Get the MarTech experts. Get Smarticore.com. Here is your host of the Agency Balance Podcast, David Snyder.
Welcome to another episode of the Agency Balance Podcast. I am so excited. Today, I'm joined with Roy Page, partner of Tobin Leff, Rhythm Systems strategy and executive coach, partner at Trio Agency Consultant, and the co-founder of Crossings Addiction Recovery. Roy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Roy, you've done a lot over your career over these last 25 years from, experiencing, leading executive, mid-market, C-suite executives and entrepreneurs. But please tell our listeners more about who Roy Page really is on all these different titles I rattled off and what you're up to right now.
Thanks, Dave. Well, first of all of what you rattled off there is about 25 or 30 years in the making, right? So it's not like all of that was done overnight, but 22 years as an agency CEO like yourself, many of your listeners, grinding it out, finding your way. Over the course of 22 years, I exited that enterprise, was founded in 1995. I bought a partner out through that process. Reset the agency, specialized the agency, had a number of good years. And in 2018, just decided it was time to move on to what was next. A lot of personal challenges, weathered 9/11, weathered a recession, took a really nice toll on me. I went through divorce, the challenges of that, loss of parents, just the things that middle age throws at you. And I've had a lot of failures right through that. So while a lot of what you rattled off there sounds like great success, there are some failures in there that hopefully when I failed, I just sort of failed forward. And so correct, today, majority of my time is spent with Tobin Leff as a partner, advising agencies on mergers, acquisitions, exit planning, growth strategies to build value. That's really fun and rewarding. I enjoy working with agency principals. You're a great model for that because you listen. We work together, right? Troubleshoot together. But our business, I've always found, is not for the faint of heart. So much of our identity is wrapped up in that, and that can be a slippery slope at times. And in addition, I've had the privilege of working with some really great professionals that impacted my life along the way. And where and when appropriate, we continue to enjoy working together, which is Trio, that is people acceleration, helping teams perform and function at a higher level. Two great people in my life, Mickey Lahr, Jay Pryor, who I've known for the better. Mickey and I worked together for 16, 17 years. And Jay was my executive coach for about 10 years. And then, about 6 years ago, life threw a curveball at me, and should have seen it coming, didn't see it coming. It was related to substance abuse and addiction, and was able to battle through that with the help of some really good people, threw myself into recovery. And last year, my wife and I founded Crossings Addiction Recovery, which is a recovery program based on sailing. That's sailing boats. Sometimes when I say that, people think it's sailing solution, and they're like, so what do? Do you take it intravenously? No, it's sailing on a boat, which was really a big part of my recovery and a big part of my reset. So today life is good. It's not without its challenges, as you and I were talking a little bit before. We'll share more about that as we get into the content. But, today I just really enjoy living, learning, leaning in one day at a time. And I have a plan, and Lord willing, that plan will unfold and unveil itself. So, and I'm a dad. I have two biological kids. I have one stepchild, and I've really been in the throes of being a dad, even though they range from 22 to 28, but life's a blessing. wonderful wife. Live in Raleigh, North Carolina, so I can be on a boat within a couple of hours, or I can be in a trout stream in the mountains within about 3.5 or 4. So I love the outdoors, and yeah, that's me.
Uh, I mean, that's great. And thank you for being so vulnerable. I think, yeah, we all like to post the things on LinkedIn and like, hey, we're doing great. And look at this, rah, rah, rah. And those moments when you sit back and you really think over the years, you're like, yeah, but how many rough
No,
rivets did we get into? And,
yeah,
I like to talk about that. I like to talk about failures. Um, that was hard for me early on in my career to admit that failures or to just be open to failing. But absolutely right now, like where I am being deep into my career, I love it because I love learning from those mistakes and not being afraid to fail. It's how you rebound. It's
right.
what you'll do next, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it takes help to get there. I've found that sharing my vulnerabilities most of the time draws people closer, right? Because I was the guy posting great, beautiful family photos a few weeks ago of my son's wedding. Um, and so it's my wife, my son, his new bride, my daughter, and they're beautiful, right? I'm not including myself in that. I realize I need to start dyeing my hair or adding hair. And they're beautiful, right? And that's a beautiful snapshot in time. And not that I count likes or anything, but that was the most liked post that I put on either LinkedIn, which I don't normally put personal stuff on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and on Facebook. But what people don't see behind those smiles was the 10 days before and now right, the 15 days after, which have been a challenge for my wife and I and my family for various reasons. Just, life just came at us. But yeah, so I find that I can only help people if I can share a bit of my story, right? And share my failures and how I was able to maybe overcome those and now help other people. And that's really what I'm called to do, whether it's in business, whether it's in recovery, or just in friendship.
Yeah, that's huge because that's how you and I met, right? So
Right.
I 2 years ago, and the listeners who know my backstory, if you don't know my backstory, listen to episode 1. I mean, I was going through a transition where I had a partner pass away on me, and then 3 months, no, 3 weeks, I'm sorry, 3 or 4 weeks later, my brother passed away to addiction, and I lost his battle there. So that hit me really close, and I was entering into a new chapter of my life, and I was open to get, like, I did sessions and trainings before that, right? That's different. But I
Okay.
was transitioning to something else. I was like, holy crap, I'm going to take over an agency for real now. And I'm going to need some support. I'm going to need some coaching. I'm going to need some help. And I started to reach out to all my past bosses, all my past CEOs, and they recommended you. And that's how we got connected. And I'm so glad I did because it's helped me, number one, with confirmation and confidence that I'm doing the right type of things.
Mm.
But it's like I if I can gain learnings from you and from your firm that have already been through this a gazillion times, why would you not take that help? Right? So maybe talk a little bit about the differences of what it was like back in the 90s when you were running it versus, coaching and leading right now. Talk about, and the agency balance is all about balance, and share what you can share about the differences there and some of maybe the characteristics and some similarities that you're seeing coming out of what's going on right now with
Right.
agencies and markets.
Yeah, well, I think I was in the business at a really good time, in spite of some of, the world events or even our economic events. I was in the business at a great time. I got a good start with an agency in North Carolina, working on a large brand. I learned a lot. I was able to carry that into mine. And like most, we found companies because we feel we can do something different. We feel maybe there's a better approach to our craft. And I was just fortunate enough to surround myself with really good people, accountable people, people that were committed to a vision. And somewhere along the line, I guess I shared that vision appropriately. Not always, but once I understood the power of vision and the power of buy-in, the power of collaboration, and then the power of alignment and accountability, our agency really thrived. All I did was set a stage. I just set a culture, right? That's what CEOs do. And I made the tough decision when the tough decision was needed to be made. But I also had a lot of people to help me do that. And, today I see oftentimes in clients a mirror image of the firm that I ran. And I can see from a people perspective where there are holes, or I can see maybe where the CEO is a little bit out of balance somewhere, whether it's professionally or personally. And we all know that carries over into our day-to-day life. And so, that I'm not a big fan. You and I've had conversations. I'm not a big fan of this term balance, right? I mean, can I cuss on the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, I do too.
And many of my peers, think it's BS.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cuss anymore, but it makes the strong point.
Yeah.
I had a team member one time when I was going through some difficult things, and she was an officer of the company. She came to me and she said, Roy, I feel like you need some peace in your life, right? Because I was out of balance. And I realized that balance was probably going to be unachievable for me. So I could continue to fight that. But more importantly, maybe I could find peace. She was right. Maybe I could find a sense of peace in all of this unbalance. And it took me a while, maybe 10 years. I'm not sure I was really good at it until becoming a consultant, right? Where I could immerse myself more in different thought leadership. I could pull myself out of the tactical day-to-day of people, of client work, the challenges that come with both of those. The agency world, in my opinion, and even my partners at Tobin Leff would tell you, it's so refreshing the day that you actually step out of it. And that's not, believe me, I loved it. It fit me. But there was that time came where I was no longer passionate about it. I was no longer excited about going in every day. I had spent 25 years in the agency world and 21 as an agency owner. And it was just time. The good news is there's great life after, right? If we have a purpose and a vision, things of that nature. So today I see a lot of what I experienced in my firm. And ideally, I'm able to help provide suggestions, tools, techniques, things to address that. If not from me, because I don't have all the answers, from the resources that I've leveraged over the years and still continue, to leverage. I think it's much harder today. I mean, let's face it, COVID, while most agencies have adapted and adapted well, it's changed the cultural dynamics of how we work together. We don't play together as much in the business like we used to. And that's what made the agency business so fun. It was that collaboration and exchange of thoughts. And so, I applaud the way most agencies have adapted to different workforces, different structures. While maybe there's been some challenge in that area, the fact that we're now open to more remote employees, it broadens the pool of us just having to recruit from a geography, which has its limitations. And so if we can create the right, cultural environments, the right work methods, the right rhythm of work, that's a little plug for the coaching consulting I do under Rhythm, then the opportunities are really endless. And so, I work with, there's baby boomers, the young boomers are aging out, right? And they're looking for that exit pathway. So there are a lot of questions and oftentimes more questions than answers. That's a long ramble, but that just goes to show you the complexity of, what we're dealing with as business owners. But I see great potential. And the beauty is the market is responding. And if someone, today feels like they're at the end of that journey and they're ready to position for that exit, the beauty is there is opportunity today to market your enterprise, transition. And I don't believe those were there 12 years ago. The thought was put into the business, what you can, take out of it what you can, and don't expect to ever be able to sell your agency. And that was the thought, 12 years ago. Well, today, that's a possibility, and a high possibility if your firm is well positioned. So thanks for letting me speak for probably 4 minutes there. You can edit whatever you need.
No, that's all.
I've never been at a loss for words. So
that's great. No, that's all really good factual information, because I can validate some of that. And so I joined SmartAcre a decade ago, and I remember what that time was like, and we had those discussions, and I was like, there's no way we're ever going to be able to monetize unless if we're a giant. That's what happened back then. So like 15, 20 years ago, if you were a top 25, 50 agency, then you could, right? But the smaller guys, forget it. No. So that's interesting. So the one thing I just
remember, just real quickly, I remember being in my peer groups, right? Because I was a peer group junkie. I love being around other agency owners. The magic number then was we got to get to 10 million in AGI, right? And we've got to have, at least 20% of that in EBITDA, because that's the that was the holding company threshold. That's where you garnered interest. Today, that's not the case. A small firm can transition today, which is great.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because there's a lot of great companies that should live on, that they should go do something, that they should continue, right? And they can have different ways to grow. You mentioned Rhythm, which, I participated in and I really enjoyed. The one thing that as a CEO, first, it's lonely at the top, and sometimes there's no one else that you're reporting into other than maybe your partners. And accountability for me is really important as a CEO. And the Rhythm system that you used helped me be accountable with goals, and making sure that it could help align me from where I am today to the future. So just real quick, talk a little bit about something like a Rhythm systems, what it is to our listeners, because I shared that a few times, and I don't think a lot of people understand what something like that can do.
Yeah. So, let's just put it in a context, right? I think we're all great at creating strategic plans, right? Some vision, some strategy, some mission. And we're, as a CEO, we love to put forth that vision and that mission to our team. But strategy is 80% execution. And I can't tell you how many times I may sit with a principal or any other business leader, and they have a strategic plan. What they don't have is the execution plan to go with it. And so what Rhythm is a means of working on the strategy, the vision, but it's also about aligning that vision with execution. And, in the agency world, let's face it, most of us are driven by people. So someone has to take their priority and to execute it and be accountable for that execution. It's an individual or a team. And so what Rhythm is an operating philosophy that cascades that vision and that strategy through execution based on priorities and tasks that are set with accountability. And then there are metrics, there are certain KPIs in the agency world that are important. And we want to achieve, measure, monitor those metrics. And we want to have conversations at the appropriate time where we're falling short so we can solve the problem and impact the problem and move forward. So, it's a long-term play, but the beauty of Rhythm that I have found, and why I used it in my company and ultimately affiliated with Rhythm, was that it's measured over short sprints. We break things down into quarterly priorities and action, because we are great at setting annual goals, but do we break that down and know what we have to do this week, next month, even? And so the rhythm of operating is really where the power is in that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it hit home for me. I was a project manager for years and stared at Gantt chart after Gantt chart. And that's really helpful. I no matter what I'm working on, whether if it's something personal or professionally, or if I'm building a presentation for, an agency pitch or internal presentation, I always break it down, right? Start with an outline, and then you start breaking down your task. It's much easier to achieve success when you start to break things down. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
You mentioned it's lonely at the top, and it is.
Yeah.
And so this type of system allows you to pull in other people resources so that you've got teammates that are delivering and driving as well. And so that's a key aspect. It's always going to be lonely at the
Yeah.
top because you deal with issues that you really sometimes you can't share with everyone else, and that's just the nature of the beast. That's not going to change. Like,
Excellent. Yeah. And if those are interested in learning more about rhythm systems, I'll put a link to Roy's info and a link to rhythm systems on my website at agencybalance.com. I want to come back to something you said about when we're talking about balance. And when I always talk about balance, there's a hidden agenda behind it because I think prioritization is your superpower. I think if you prioritize the things that keep you balanced, things that you like to do, and you over prioritize those, that's when you feel like you're having balance. But when you don't prioritize the things that make you happy, and you're over prioritizing things that don't work, task or whatever it might be, then you feel unbalanced. But you said a word that I think let's spend some time to talk about, and that's peace.
yeah,
Peace. And you shared with me and my company about the Peace Index, which I think is fascinating, and it really helped me. Let's dive into that. Let's lean into that, as you always say. Let's talk about the Peace Index.
Sure. So the Peace Index is really, it's a measurement of about 5, we'll call them dimensions that most people, professionals, people experience in the course of their life, in the course of their day, right? It's where we live in the here and now. I mean, we're a society in the US of immediate gratification, right? We want to solve problems today. And so the Peace Index looks at different aspects, elements, call them dimensions of the individual. So if I look at myself, one area is purpose. Am I living out the purpose that I was intended to live out? Do I know what that purpose is? How do I feel about that purpose? And it may change over time. For 20 years, my purpose was, or 21, my purpose was the CEO, founder of Third Degree Advertising and Communications. That purpose shifted a few years ago. The second is provision. How do we feel about our income, our career? Are we meeting our needs financially? Are we meeting our needs in the other areas spiritually, if you will? Which leads in then to health. How do I feel about my mental well-being, my physical health? I can tell you, as someone coming out of recovery, that took a much higher priority over some of the others for a period of time. And then there's the social aspect. So the fourth dimension being kind of people. Who am I surrounded with? The people at work, my friendships, my family relations. Do I have the right people, advisors, coaches? Do I have the right people in my life to help me impact my life in a positive way? And then finally, there's our place. That is, how do we feel about where we live, how we live, the geography that we're in, the access to enjoyment that we have? You know me, Dave, I love the outdoors, right? So I want to be, it's great that I live where I live today. I'm close to the coast, I'm close to the mountains. I can be sailing one day, and a couple of days later, if I could find the time, I'd be fly fishing, right, in the Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina. So summarizing, it's purpose, provision, health, people, and place. And if we were to assign a percentage to each of those and average it out, we would get our Peace Index. Overall, how peaceful are we today? On a scale of, 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. So it's measured in percentages. And I'm happy to share sort of how that changes on a regular basis, just based on my experience over the last month. But what it allows us to do is, if we're lower than we feel like we should be, then we know what we need to prioritize for a period of time to address it, right? And so, for me, most recently, it was the people piece in my life that I really needed to address more. And I had it maybe at 80%. Well, my overall Peace Index, if I were to average everything, may have been 90, 92%. It's never been 100%, but it was the people piece that was really low for me. And it had to do with just life events from family members, things that my wife and I were experiencing. And so how do we cope and manage and navigate that and make sure that we're addressing the things that at the end of the day, we have a better sense of peace about how we're treating the people in our life, how we're being treated, how present are we in their major life events.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at that. And there's some resources we can make available to our listeners off the website, so you can kind of create your own peace index. I think it's so important, no matter what level you're at, and whether if you're just coming into your career or you're just getting started or you're at the top. I live by always be caring and making sure that just because you're at the top doesn't mean, and I'll curse now, you can be a dickhead, right. And that's tough. Like it's I've seen that. I personally have seen that where, as you start to climb the ladder, your personality starts to change. You're because you're making more money or whatever, and you start to be different to people. Right. And human wellness is so important, and some of the things that you're talking about. And when you're breaking down those dimensions, maybe talk about that a little bit, where it's the different dimensions between spiritual and emotional and all of those. Like how do you start? How do you index yourself, right? How do you start to apply change?
Right. Well, self-assessment is the place to start. One area I always look at is, where do I feel empty? Where do I feel something's missing? Where am I not fulfilled? And that's a simple question you can ask yourself. And if you're honest with yourself, fortunately, those of us in recovery are very honest with ourselves, because before you can address that, you have to be brutally honest with yourself, where you're broken. So just asking yourself where something is lacking, where you're not feeling fulfilled, is a great place to start. And then you'll be able to isolate, is this something perhaps that's spiritual? Is it something that's emotional? Is it occupational, right? Is it what I do for a living every day? Is it intellectual? Am I missing some knowledge? Am I not growing intellectually? Am I not, driving my emotional capital? I was a student of the craft. Have always been. I was a terrible student. That's the irony. In high school, college, I was a terrible student. Today, I love to learn. I love to read. I love to expose myself to it. And so that's the intellectual piece. Is it my social community or my social network? Is something missing there that's not fulfilling? And then let's face it, our physical health is really important. And all types of research suggests that if you're physically fit, you'll be emotionally more fit. If you're emotionally unfit or challenging, then that's going to impact your physical well-being. And so, those dimensions that I tend to break it down, the human wellness dimension that's presented by Rogers University, which I really like. If you look at those areas of your spirituality, your emotional position, your occupational position, your intellectual position, your social community, and your physical community, likely within those, if there's a deficiency or an area you're challenged, it's going to impact your purpose, your provision, your health, your the people around your life in the place. And so I like to look at both of those tools. The Peace Index, which is not mine, by the way, it was presented to be one of my partners, Mickey Lara, who's great at coaching through that. It was just a really nice overlay to those human wellness dimensions. The one thing we didn't talk about was when I went through that major change coming out of recovery, I actually went back to grad school. At an older age than most people, though I found that I was among many of my peers, some, even much older. I do have a milestone birthday coming up. I'm not going to disclose that. So, because I don't feel that. I went back to grad school as part of my recovery so I could better understand Roy and the events and the circumstances that led up to that. And I was really grateful for that, because I was able to study some of these really interesting models and modalities, and not to get too philosophical and deep in that, but, we can address certain challenges in our life through simple tools. We often try to make things more complex than they need to be. And so I think the Peace Index is just a really great snapshot that a person can take in 5 minutes at any point in time.
Thanks for sharing that. I think so much, and share what you can share. I think when things are happening today, right? Like it's easy to focus on the moment. It's easy to kind of get off track quickly with something, bad happens to you. What are some techniques that you can share, and maybe even work in some of the recent examples that you faced over these last couple of weeks, that you can rely back on the Peace Index to kind of get you back on the right track and navigate back to some peace?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so let's talk about Roy's last 30 some days, right? So for the listeners, and it's all very special, but on May 13th, my wife and I, a couple of days before, journeyed out. My daughter was graduating from college, by the way, which people said she would never be able to attend a major university. And she did, and she excelled, and she graduated almost with honors, really close. So we journey out for that. It's a 5-day journey. She goes to college. She graduated from the University of Arkansas. The Sunday after graduation, I start not feeling very well. And then that Monday, my wife starts not feeling well. We find out we have COVID. We get back to North Carolina. Sorry for those of you that were flying on Delta with us, but we get back. I thought it was allergies. We test and we both have COVID. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, in a week and a half, we're going to be flying to Kansas City because our oldest son's getting married. So, it's 4 days of festivity. So we've got to be ready for that. More air travel, right? More hotels, more moving around. And then a week and a half after that, the very daughter that graduated from college has to undergo fairly intensive surgery, which happened last Tuesday. And through all of that, I have this career called Tobin Leff, right? So I've got clients that are relying on me, right? And I can't just put them off for a month. So things are a little unsettled, right? That's a lot of stress. And so what I had to end up doing was, I had to be present in all of those cases. And so we can talk all we want to about time management, but what I found is that my sense of my purpose is intact. My purpose did not change in any of that. What I do as a professional, what I do personally, I have a purpose and a vision for that. That doesn't change. But all this people stuff in my life and the demands of people. So my Peace Index, let's say, went from being on May 12th of maybe 95 to just declining all the way through the last 30 days, right? And it really got to the point where it's like, wow, I'm just ready for this to be over so I can go on to the next thing. So for me, what I figured out really quickly, just in doing a quick daily assessment, was it was the people piece that was really starting to suffer. I'd gone from a 92%, let's say, down to when my daughter went into surgery last Tuesday, I can tell you that it was 50% probably. But fortunately, through recovery, I'd learned skills that helped me better cope. So staying in tune with my spiritual side, right? Continuing to do my exercises, jumping on the elliptical at the hotel for 30 minutes was helpful. Making sure I had my quiet time for reflection, right? In the rooms of AA, we like to say your higher power as you understand them. And I have a higher power as well. So my prayer time became very important. Making sure I was staying in touch with my wife, that we were talking and communicating, and sharing that. And so for me, it just was a matter of saying, all right, Roy, what do I need to focus on the first 30 minutes this morning so that I can be set for the rest of the day's demands? And I've shared with you and your team, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. is my time, right? It's just what I block off for work on Roy, for my spiritual time, my quiet time, my study, maybe some writing or journaling. All those things to me are very helpful because I've learned about myself, if I bottle things up, it just creates more stress. So writing is a way for me to just vent that. Taking walks, moving, a little bit of exercising. And then this wonderful thing called box breathing, all right, for, just learning how to breathe so I can lower the cortisol in my brain when I'm triggered. And so for me, it's something as simple as that. And then sometimes you just have to ride it out, right? You just one day at a time, you ride it out. try not to project too far into the future. Just deal with what you can deal with in that short term. Small successes, to me, small steps add up to great steps. And so often we get overwhelmed and we don't prioritize, as you said earlier. So we don't realize any reward, or we don't see any victory. And for me, it was that one day at a time, making sure I had the time for myself, and this is letting the days pass.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad that some of the things are bouncing back, and it sounds like your daughter's recovering.
She's doing great. Yeah.
Good.
When I heard Daddy yesterday, that Daddy was the Daddy I was used to hearing.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's doing great. Thanks for asking.
Good. Yeah. The couple of things that I do as well. The quiet time for me, something that I learned that it just, even if I'm just sitting drinking my morning coffee and at my favorite spot, or starting my day in my office, just quiet. And if you can hear it really closely, listeners, there's birds chirping out my window. It's really peaceful. I open my window up and I listen to the birds chirp. For those in the city, sorry.
They don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. They don't worry. And I like the one day at a time too, because I always remind my kids that is like, today is a brand new day.
Yeah.
It's a reset. You can do whatever. If yesterday was bad and rough, let it in the past. Start to work forward and move on to the next thing. And that's really, what you can do. And you have that reset. Excellent. Thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot of stress today.
Yes, we do.
We have a mental health crisis, according to many experts. Addiction is through the roof. Overdoses are, climbing. And we have to ask ourselves, we have to bring that down to an individual level. What's my role in all of that? And how can I take care of myself? And, one of the things I learned through recovery was there were times when I was trying to worry about too many other people. It's what we do. We run a company of 20 to 50 employees. That's a lot of responsibility. And we all embrace that. And thank God for men and women who are willing to occupy those seats and do that. The fact of the matter is, the best I can do is take care of that close circle that I can influence, and then let them do the rest. Right. And so maintaining those core relationships, I think, are real important, whether they're professional or personal. I got a lot of joy for many years out of the professional team and leadership team that surrounded me. And that changed at some point. Right. So now the relationships and the dynamics are a bit different.
So I'm going to try something new, Roy. If you're up for a fun exercise, because sometimes you can get kind of serious on these podcasts, but I'm going to introduce something new to my Balance podcast here called Dave's Random 10. And these might change from episode to episode. It's not Dave's top 10. It's Dave's Random 10 of 10 things that you just real quickly, or if you need to take a second, to process it. And I have not shared these with Roy before, but this is going to give you an idea of some of his likes and dislikes. All right. So you ready?
I think so.
This is,
and no, maybe I'm not ready.
Well, this is clean. This is good, clean fun. All right. We'll start off fun here. Here we go. Ready? Number one, the choice. You have one choice of these three: tofu, steak, or seafood. Steak. See, this is easy.
I'm a steak guy. Yeah.
All right. Number two, lace up sneakers or slip-ons.
Slip-ons with elastic lace. It's on cloud, man. It's all I wear.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great shoe. Yeah. I hope you get really famous and I can get some for that. Yeah. Not a lace up fan, but I do love the elastic lace that just expands.
That is game changer. Yes, because you're in and out.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, I'm barefoot right now. I don't wear shoes in my house. I have like a strict no shoe policy in my house.
That's a good policy.
All right, cool. T-shirt or collared shirt?
T-shirt.
T-shirt, absolutely.
for sure. Even though I'm wearing a collared shirt today.
We're
I did
looking-
this- yeah. Yeah.
All right,
T-shirt.
I know the answer to this one, but I threw maybe a wild card. Horse, car, or boat?
Boat.
Oh no, yeah. I thought maybe you would throw maybe a horse in there. That I thought I could get you.
When I was no, one of my desires is to actually live on a boat for about a year and sail. My wife has told me, don't even think about it. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to be present with you, but yes, I would take a boat.
What's that? If you live on a boat for a long time, you start to adapt to the waves and and you go back on land and you're like off balance. Is that a real thing?
Well, I don't know. I mean, every time I get off a sailboat, I've only taken a couple of cruises, I'm on them for a week, and yeah, you rock for a few days, right? I mean, for me, it somewhat, but yeah, I don't know.
There's something out there, and some of our listeners go, I know exactly what you're talking about, but like some people will live on a boat for a long time, and then they come back to land like 4 months later or 3 months later, and they feel like they're still on the boat, but they can't shake it.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Like really messed with their like equilibrium and stuff. Okay, keep going here.
Let's please not let Lynn, my wife, listen to this.
Okay,
Right.
we'll edit that part out.
Okay.
You stole one of these earlier, so I think I know what you're going to say. But beach or mountains?
Oh, beach, I think probably, but mountains have their place. Yeah.
And you're right in between both, so you
Right
can.
in between. Yeah.
All right, this. Now we're getting into some open-ended things here.
Okay.
Okay, what would you sing at karaoke night?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You want a song title or?
Yeah, or just a band or a singer,
I would like to be
songwriter.
able to sing like Steve Perry. used to
Steve
sing,
Perry.
But then there's a part of me that thinks, something kind of wooey.
Like
right?
Don't Stop Believing. Like I could. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe REO Speedwagon, again, Sherry Maid. But then it would be fun to rap.
Ooh, Roy the Rapper.
Roy the Rapper, the Rastafarian rapper, or something like that. That would be cool, right?
Okay, so start working on that. The next time we meet up, we're gonna go do that. All right, this is a weird one. This has come up quite a bit over the last few months, and we asked some of our new smart acres who joined us: doors or wheels?
Doors or wheels?
You look confused.
I'm
For those who are
confused.
watching on YouTube, have you heard about this? Doors or wheels? What do you think they're more of in the world? Doors or wheels?
I play Wordle at night. That's kind of how I end my day. Doors or wheels? I would suspect in the U.S. it has to be more wheels.
Right? Because most things have like 4 wheels, like cars.
Yeah,
and
but my house has a lot of doors. How do you define door?
an entryway,
An entryway.
right? I think that's what a door is.
I'm gonna go with doors, entryways. I think
doors. Okay,
yeah,
this is the great debate.
it is a good debate. That'll drive a person insane.
If you really start to think about that, how many cabinet doors that are in your house?
Yeah.
But then you look down and you got I have 8 wheels on that chair over here.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I told you this is going to be random and fun.
That's going to jack me up the rest of the day.
All right. 3 more. What is your favorite zoo animal?
Favorite zoo animal? I got to go with the zebra.
A zebra.
Yeah. They're just cool, man.
It is cool.
I mean, they have those stripes. Plus, I like fruit stripe gum.
Oh, that's a classic.
I'll
Fruit
buy
stripe
that.
gum.
It's hard to find.
It
But
is.
walk into your local hardware store and you might get lucky.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I have about 4 things on my desk. And for those who are watching, I'm going to share a gum because you brought it up. You talk about a blast from the past. You ready for this?
Ready? Yes.
Tea-berry gum.
We went to Cracker Barrel.
Nope. I have 2 local candy, old-fashioned soda pop / candy stores in my nearby here. And they sell vintage candy. And I'm a
It's
sucker
good.
for that.
I've been known to buy Beemans at Cracker Barrel.
Yes.
Another
Beemans as
Yeah.
well. All right. We got 2 more to go here.
All right, man.
These are kind of putting a bow on it and everything that we talked about. So kind of a little bit more serious.
All right.
Something you would change.
Something I would change.
Yeah. Could be anything.
Wow. I probably would have changed shirts had I known you were going to ask about
Change the
shirts.
shirts. You're not the first person to come on and go, wait, you're wearing a t-shirt, so I don't have to wear a dress shirt?
I know what I would change it myself. I'm fairly impatient, right? I mean, I'm better at it. I think I would change two things. One is I would try to be more patient, let things unfold. And two, I would try to listen better or listen more often. I talk a lot, Dave. Your listeners are going to hear that too. Not learn to shorten my thoughts. I would change those things. Great question.
Those are hard to work on. My resolution, if you have one for the year for myself, was to try not to sweat the small things, because I get very upset quickly over stupid little things. And I just I have to learn to break that. The listening is really hard when you're an agency, because you think you're the smartest person in the room and you love to hear yourself talk, but that is really powerful too. Work on listening skills. Try to be in a very active conversation and bite your tongue. It's something you really have to work on. Okay. So you're going to change one or two things, and now something you will keep. This is the final one. Something that you're going to keep.
My gratitude.
That's a great answer.
I am a grateful person today. I really am. And I want to keep that. I make a gratitude list. I won't say I do it every day. That's not true. But every couple of days, I'll find 20 things to be grateful for. And I have a lot to be grateful for in spite of the journey, right? So yeah, I want to keep gratitude.
Well, thank you for that fun exercise. I am grateful for you, Roy Page. And Roy, thank you so much. Please tell our listeners how they can learn more about you and what we talked, and how can they connect with you.
So they can just email me, rpage@tobinleff.com, TOBINLEFF.com. Or they can find me on LinkedIn and connect with me through LinkedIn. And there they should be able to find my cell phone number and everything else. So it's all good. Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
And thank you, and have a beautiful day.
Thanks. You too. I enjoyed it.
Subscribe to the podcast at agencybalance.com, Apple, YouTube, or Spotify.